Ling Wen asked him if he was made aware of Hua Cheng's most famous battle. It was the battle between Crimson Rain Zot Flower and 33 heavenly officials. It was a battle that threw the heavenly realms upside down and left the gods in tears. Xie Lian's eyes widened in shock at Ling Wen's tale. A few hundred years ago, there was a ghost who challenged 35 heavenly officials. Amused, 33 of those challenged decided to band together to teach this fledgling devastation rank ghost a lesson he won't forget. The first to engage in battle are the martial gods, confident of their high spiritual powers, their skills, and the unwavering belief of their followers. They held no doubt that they would win. Martial gods have the most followers. In this world, the more believers you have, the more powerful you are. So it would make sense for them to start with the heavy artillery. They probably want to stomp down this arrogant devastation ghost who's still a little wet behind the ears. Spectacularly, Hua Cheng defeated the martial gods in just one battle, as the martial gods show off the fruits of years of cultivation. Hua Cheng arrogantly defeated them all at the same time. It was cruel, the way he brought the martial gods down to their knees in defeat. This Hua Cheng is good. It did not specify how many martial gods there are out of the 33, but defeating even just one is hard enough. Their morale must have sunk below ground zero after such a devastating defeat. Hua Cheng possesses an unusual weapon, a saber. On the hilt of Hua Cheng's saber, there is a single red eye. When the saber is drawn, the eye would open gleaming with malicious intent. This is the weapon that shattered the martial gods' spiritual swords, no matter how powerful they were. After the martial gods were defeated, the saber is sheathed, and the eye closed seemingly asleep. This revelation shocked Xie Lian and left him speechless. To be honest, he has that dumb look you make when you don't know how to process things. Do you get what I'm saying? After the devastating defeat of the martial gods, it is now the civil gods' turn. It was a spectacle. The literary debate turned into a battle of insults. Hua Cheng ruthlessly doled out insults, citing the civil gods' ignorance, craftily making them turn their own words against them. Hua Cheng is a well of knowledge who can narrate the past and the present. He attacks the civil gods with his words, at times diplomatic, at times vicious, at times pacifying, and at times without mercy. Not only is his saber sharp, but Hua Cheng also possesses the sharpest tongue. The civil gods got owned. They all got played in their own game. Not only is he powerful enough to defeat martial gods, but he is also quick-witted and extremely smart. This Hua Cheng fellow is getting more and more interesting. The civil gods were so humiliated that they coughed up blood that colored the skies red. Imagine being so angry that you would cough up blood. Is that even possible in real life? This is the battle that made Hua Cheng famous. His name became known in the three realms, except for Xie Lian. However, this battle was not the reason why everyone feared him. In the aftermath, he demanded that the defeated gods fulfill their promise when the challenge was accepted. Prior to accepting the challenge, both sides made an agreement. If Hua Cheng lost, he would give them his ashes. The ash of a ghost is the very essence of their being. As long as the ashes remain untouched, the ghost will continue its existence. Their bodies could be slaughtered, their flesh destroyed, but as long as the ashes are safe, they can restore themselves and come back to life. And for the heavenly officials, they agreed to give up their lives as gods and descend to the mortal realms, a consequence that no one took seriously until their devastating defeat. I think that's fair. He gives up his life, they give up theirs. Fair trade. None of the officials fulfilled their promise. After all the years of hard work they've put into becoming a heavenly official, no one in their right mind would give up godhood to descend to the mortal realm and all its suffering. While it was humiliating to turn back on their words, it would be more humiliating to live the life of a mortal after ascending to heaven. Xie Lian did it twice. Xie Lian rested his chin on his fist as he contemplates their reasoning. Knowing that Xie Lian is a well of self-righteousness, Ling Wen can tell that Xie Lian is disappointed with how the gods acted. With a sigh, Xie Lian asked Ling Wen what went through the gods' heads when they decided to not go through with their promise. Had it only been one god, they would have been shamed. But since there are 33 of them, it is not shameful at all. They could even tease each other about it. They can pretend that it never happened. And everyone will eventually forget. After all, if they had received the challenge individually, they would not accept such a challenge from a devastation-ranked ghost. However, since the challenge was for the 33 of them, they did not expect to be defeated. It was Hua Cheng's arrogant attitude that provoked them, assured that with their numbers, there is no way that Hua Cheng can win. So, it's like, they felt more confident as a group but they know that they can't win the challenge on their own. Losers. Ling Wen sweats as she recounts the tale. Wanting to know what happened next, Xie Lian urged her to continue. What they did not account for is that Hua Cheng will not stand down at being cheated. To this day, whenever Hua Cheng's name is mentioned, gods and goddesses shivered in fear. Hua Cheng set fire to all the temples belonging to these heavenly officials, leaving them powerless. A single challenge turned into a nightmare for the heavenly officials involved, as a god's power would depend on their temples and followers. Burning their temples would have been a major hit to their very being. Surprised, Xie Lian had to repeat what he heard to Ling Wen. He can't believe that anyone can do such a thing. Ling Wen answered with a resounding yes to confirm that what he heard was true. In just one night, with a single fire, Hua Cheng burned all their temples to the ground. Everyone was baffled by how he did it. What sealed the deal for these heavenly officials is that they broadcasted the battle to all royalty, nobles, and their believers in the mortal realm in the form of a dream. They planned to gain more believers by showing off their might and vast intellect to the mortals. They did not expect to be defeated so devastatingly. They are ruined. After such a dream, the royals decided to stop praying to these heavenly officials and opted to worship the Ghost King. They got cancelled. I feel bad for them, but not really. It's the price of arrogance. A hefty price. As their followers dwindled, their powers eventually waned, and the 33 heavenly officials slowly diminished until they are no more. Heaven lost 33 officials in quick succession, and their spots remained empty for a very long time. New officials ascended to heaven to take their place, but the story of the defeated officials remains to this day. If they had fulfilled their promise, maybe they could have ascended again, just like Xie Lian. Who knows? Ling Wen paused after concluding her tale. She called for a servant to bring them tea. Xie Lian remembered that Hua Cheng originally challenged 35 officials, but only 33 accepted the challenge. Curious, he asked who were the officials that did not participate. As she pours tea for both of them, Ling Wen reveals that they were Generals Nanyang and Zhuan Zhen. They did not think that Hua Cheng was such a threat, and they thought that the challenge was beneath them. With this decision, the two avoided a catastrophe. However, things were not easy for them either. It did not end there. There's more. This Hua Cheng probably got insulted that they did not accept the challenge. Ling Wen passed the tea to Xie Lian, and he thanked her. He asked her what happened. Every year, during the Ghost Festival, this is like Halloween. Heavenly officials would patrol at night. On one of these nights, General Nanyang and General Zhuan Zhen crossed paths several times with Hua Cheng. In the novel, Ling Wen explained that Hua Cheng provoked several fights with these generals, and the two were severely injured. He must be really out to get them. Ling Wen tells Xie Lian that she had the luck to bear witness to one of those fights. With fear on her face, she recounts how terrifying those wraith butterflies have been. With how Hua Cheng likes to provoke heavenly officials, she wonders why Hua Cheng has not done anything to offend Xie Lian yet. Xie Lian's eyes darted away from Ling Wen's. He bowed his head, pretending to drink the tea as he thinks to himself, how cute those butterflies look to him. I think they're cute, too. I wonder what those butterflies could do that made everyone so scared of them. In the depths of Ghost City, where the red moon glows above, a silver butterfly flutters its wings as it daintily floats into a majestic red palace. Inside, the spacious hall was luxuriously decorated. Glass beads and red mesh curtains hung from the ceiling. Many lanterns light up the place. At the far end, staged on elevated floors, a ghost dressed in red sat on a throne. He extends his hand, and the wraith butterfly sat atop his index finger. It was beautiful and translucent. A long pause, and the butterfly stayed on his finger for quite some time. In his mind's eye, an image of Xie Lian clad in red wedding robes appears. How beautiful Xie Lian looked, with butterflies dancing around him, his robes being blown by the wind. With a voice laced with longing, the Ghost King softly called for the one he yearns the most, Jansha. The communication array is abuzz with chatter. It is a safe place for heavenly officials to seek help, learn, and share their knowledge. One heavenly official asks for a place to stay during their trip to the west. Another expressed their frustration at being unable to understand a book. A third wanted to join a group going to Beihai. A fourth brags about the blooming flowers in their territory, inviting everyone to come and see. Out of these posts, the fourth one garnered the most response. The first three asking for help were visibly ignored. Out of the blue, an uncommon participant joined the conversation. It is Xie Lian. The blooming flowers reminded him of a poem he read the night before, and he thought that it would be a shame not to share it. He made sure to make the copy of the poem to be accessible to everyone so that they could rejoice in its profoundness. This was met with silence. You know when someone joins in a convo, and they'd switch the topic to something uninteresting, awkward. A fifth official decided to change the conversation and requested help on their leaking roof. Xie Lian thought that if the roof remained unfixed, the god's palace would become damp and will result in back pain. Xie Lian has the perfect solution. A script with tips and tricks on how to live up to 100 years. Xie Lian, darling, you're all immortals. They don't need that. What they need is to get the roof fixed, not some key to healthy living book. Another heavenly official asked for help on how to gain more followers. The official seems to be really depressed and in desperate need of assistance. Xie Lian decided to share copies of 2 books with this heavenly official, one book observing good habits of fellow gods and the other a book about understanding one's thoughts. To me, they're not bad. If you're really desperate for help, you'll take Xie Lian's help. Those books could be really helpful. Xie Lian smiled triumphantly for a job well done. The god who received the books was dumbstruck. The same can be said about the other gods in the communication array. They were stupefied. At the lack of response, Xie Lian thought that perhaps the information he shared was not interesting. He decided to find better helpful references so that his help would be far more effective. Finding himself with nothing to do after the mission in Yujin Mountain, Xie Lian decided to be friends with the other gods. He decided to start with those needing help in the communication array. Ling Wen halted his enthusiastic search. She contacted him through his private communication array so that they could communicate freely with one another. Ling Wen informed him that the references he provided were good. However, she pointed out that all those references were already out of date, so that's why they can't relate. Xie Lian is 800 years old, and there are probably many young gods that ascended since his banishment. That's a big generation gap. Xie Lian reasoned that since his banishment, he was no longer up to date with the going-ons in the heavenly realm and that the books may have lost their popularity over time. Ling Wen countered that they were not popular at all. Embarrassed, Xie Lian decided to just take it in stride and move on. Ling Wen brought up an important matter that Xie Lian must immediately attend to. Since his ascension, no one has built him a temple. If Xie Lian does not gain any worshippers, he will slowly fade like the 33 gods that Hua Cheng defeated. As a god, Xie Lian can only earn merits from incense burned in his name. Xie Lian, a little overwhelmed and confused, made a decision. He scoured the mortal realm for a tranquil place that would be the perfect place for his new temple. Ling Wen, baffled by what he's doing, called him by his title. Xie Lian explained that if no one wants to provide him with offerings and burn incense for him, then he shall provide offerings to himself and burn incense in his own name. This declaration was met with silence. How humiliating is it for a god to worship himself? It was unheard of. This reminds me of the song Flowers by Miley Cyrus. If no one will do it for you, you do it for yourself. Xie Lian found his perfect place, a countryside village at the bottom of a mountain, with lush forest and abundant clearings. His mind made up. He descended to the mortal realm once more. The view is magnificent. At the center of this mountainous range lies a village overlooking a picturesque valley with crystalline rivers and lush forestry. The autumn leaves add a tranquil personality to the view. The sun is about to set, tinging the fiery scenery with its soft orange rays. The village is peacefully inhabited by a small number of people. Everyone knew each other, and the arrival of a Taoist in one of the village's abandoned houses is hard not to notice. The place is covered with so much dust that it would take more than a day to clean it. A man in white Taoist robes is seen cleaning a rundown house. Clouds of dust are expelled from the home, calling the attention of those passing by. A village woman with her daughter clinging to her skirt asks an elderly aunt what seems to be going on. The aunt replies that a Taoist arrived in their village, declaring that he wants to build a shrine to worship a god. The Taoist has been cleaning all day, thus the clouds of dust. The kind people of Pu Kai village welcomed the Taoist with open arms. They offered him water chestnuts to refresh him after a day's hard work. They gave him many offerings of food and considerately introduced themselves to the Taoist. They are eager to know which god will be worshipped in this little shrine. The Taoist replied that the one he wants to worship is the Crown Prince of Xian. None of the villagers know of him. Xie Lian, unable to brag about his own accomplishments, responded with an obvious, Crown Prince of Xian is a crown prince. Duh, it's in the title. You have to market yourself better than that to gain followers. Xie Lian, darling. The villagers asked what this crown prince's specialty is. Xie Lian responded that he grants peace and safety. Since he cleans up trash all the time, it is not far from the truth that cleanliness provides peace while having no trash to trip over provides safety. That's a nice way of putting it. Xie Lian just embellished his resume. One villager asked if this god provides help in obtaining wealth and good fortune. With someone as poor as Xie Lian, he is no god of fortune. One suggested that they should worship the water god instead so that they can bring in more wealth through prayers. Another suggested that they worship Ling Wen so that their little village can produce the perfect scholar. Chinese moms seem to be obsessed with raising the smartest kid. Through all these suggestions, Xie Lian awkwardly smiled. These villagers are telling him that they'd rather worship other gods to his face. They didn't know he was there, but that would have been awkward for Xie Lian. Xie Lian pushed the table to the wall. With a thud, the edge of the table is connected with hard concrete. With a huff, Xie Lian took a moment to admire his work. There's a lot more to do. Xie Lian does not mind the endless chores. He walked across the barren garden with a basket of water chestnuts. That's a nice crib for Xie Lian. The hut, although run down, is fixable after some love. And it's got a nice lawn that Xie Lian can use to do a bit of gardening. If you're into cottagecore, this will be a lovely place to live in. After a bit of walking, Xie Lian came across a brook to wash the water chestnuts. He rested at the entrance of the hut, drinking tea while he enjoyed the peacefulness of his surrounding. Water chestnut skin littered the ground as he takes his time to enjoy them. He clapped his palms in thanks for his good fortune. He silently thanked the villagers and their hospitality. Finally, thanks are looking up for Xie Lian. As a final touch, Xie Lian acquired a piece of discarded wood, most likely from the broken gate, and attached a sign made of parchment to it. He took the sign and placed it at the gate. The sign aims to seek a passersby's generosity to improve the shrine in exchange for merits in their name. Xie Lian decided that he will call this place Pukai Shrine. Finally done with all that he can do to improve his new home, Xie Lian sets out to leave. There is so much more to do. The landscape is gorgeous. Under the autumn leaves, we will find Xie Lian walking with a large sack on his back and a smaller one carried by his right hand. It was a nice autumn day. He looks far into the horizon as the sun shines through the canopy of red leaves. He continues his walk, and he is reminded of an old memory from a long time ago. A very long time ago. He was swept with sadness as he reminisced the old times. An image of an illustrious prince planked by his two most loyal servants planked his mind eye. As they walked gaily away from him, he was assaulted with an unusual feeling of loneliness and longing for what he used to have. Poor Xie Lian. He stood still under the canopy of red leaves for a moment. Then he rubbed his eyes to rid himself of the image. A voice suddenly cut through his reminiscing, calling out to him. An old man riding an ox-drawn cart pulled up beside him. Disgruntled with the Taoist blocking his path, he asked him to move. Xie Lian recognized the man and thought that he may have seen him before in the Pukai Shrine. He approached the man and asked him if they are headed in the same direction. He decided to ask for a ride. Reluctantly, the old man told him to get on the cart. As he thanked the driver, Xie Lian loaded his large sack into the cart. He stepped on the cart from the front and situated himself on the side, his back to the large stack of hay. Xie Lian let out a relieved sigh, grateful for the free ride. Xie Lian looked at the sack he was carrying fondly. To earn a bit more money, he collects scraps from nearby villages to sell and fill up his new shrine. He's been using his own money to improve the shrine and wants to earn more by collecting scraps and broken things. He surmises that ascending is not much better than collecting scraps. He opened the scraps to admire his loot for the day. He was able to acquire a scroll called a Catalogue of 100 Heavenly Officials. He thought that this will be the best time to study the scroll to catch up on the recently ascended gods in heaven. As he was reading through the scroll, he stumbled upon his own name. It accurately depicted his third ascension and what he has been known for in the mortal realm. He was a little downtrodden by the unflattering descriptions of him as a plague god and as a trash-collecting god. With a sigh, he exhaled a huff and comforted himself by saying out loud that all gods are the same and that people are born equal. From the back of the cart, a voice questions him with disbelief and says that gods wouldn't exist in heaven if that was truly the case. Xie Lian realized that someone has been on the cart before he himself alighted. His co-passenger sat at the back of the cart. His back leans against the stack of hay, his arms raised to clasp his hands behind his neck, his legs crossed with one leg stretched out in front of him while the other bent to rest his ankle on one knee. He was wearing a deep red coat, dark pants, and boots with red and gold accents. His bearing screams young master. Xie Lian was surprised, and he looked at the youth in bewilderment. He smiled at him sweetly and agreed with the youth. He thought to himself that some manner must be missing its young master. He continued studying the material he's been reading. Wudu, the water master, is the god that people pray to for wealth and water resources. Xie Lian wondered how could a god in charge of water be a god of fortune. The youth chimed in, informing Xie Lian how powerful the water master is. He educates Xie Lian on how the water master gained power. Being in charge of the waters, the water god decides if a merchant ship will be able to traverse the waters safely. Those that displease him will find their ships sank to the bottom of the deep waters. Merchants and businessmen learn to worship and appease him. This young master is very educated. This explanation made sense to Xie Lian. Someone who had the means to protect one's interest and a safe business venture can definitely become a god of fortune. He moved on with his reading. General Pei Su of the Mingguing Palace is known as a city slaughterer. From their short meeting in Yujin Mountain, Xie Lian never took him as a violent person with a horrid past. Once again, the youth chimed in. The youth expressed that a martial god having a violent past is not surprising at all. After all, a general or hero ascends as a martial god by stepping over the bones of their enemies. It is no flowery path. Instead, it is a trail of blood, carcass, and chaos. Intrigued, Xie Lian scooted closer to the youth, wanting to see him more clearly. He praised him for his vast knowledge. Relaxed and sure of himself, the youth told Xie Lian that having this kind of knowledge is not at all unusual. It is something that one can freely learn in their free time. Xie Lian has had enough of reading and decided to put his scroll back into his sack. Since the youth knows a lot about gods, it is not impossible for him to also know about ghosts. The youth casually asked him which one he'd like to learn more about. Boldly, Xie Lian asked him about the crimson rain-sought flower. Hua Cheng. Why do I feel like this is turning into some sort of game for them, like wordplay? There was a pause, and the youth rose a little from his relaxed position on the hay, sitting upright. Xie Lian casually tied his sack, securing his belongings as he waited for the youth's reply. After a short beat, the youth asked what he would like to know. Surprised, Xie Lian took a long hard look at the youth. Staring back at him is an exceptionally handsome youth dressed in red, his mouth smiling. His long black hair is braided and tied at the ends. Maple leaves danced around him. A single leaf landed on his shoulder as he urged Xie Lian to ask what he would like to know. Why am I excited? Who is this handsome young master who wears red talking about the Ghost King? Who also likes to wear red? Is it a coincidence, or he just wants to tease us? On a road littered with red maple leaves, an ox-drawn cart slowly made its way. With the clipping clop of the ox's hooves, it smoothly transported its passengers. The driver is an old man calmly maneuvering the ox, while two handsome men lounges on the cart. Xie Lian took the opportunity to learn more about the enigmatic Ghost King. He asked the youth how the Ghost King earned the moniker, Crimson Rain Sought Flower. The title has a nice ring to it, and there must be a story behind it. The youth shrugged it off as nothing worthy of attention. He explained that there was a time when Hua Cheng raided another ghost's home. Crimson rain follows in his wake. As he was about to leave, he chanced upon a single flower being pelted by the bloody rain. In order to protect it from being flattened to the ground, he tilted his umbrella towards the pitiful flower. Xie Lian thought that the scene of a ghost king protecting a single flower from the bloody rain would have been an elegant yet mysterious sight. He wonders out loud what the ghost king was like when he was still human. The youth nonchalantly replied that Hua Cheng was probably not a good person if he became the ghost that everyone fears. Delighted by the youth's eagerness to answer, Xie Lian asked the one question that no two people can answer the same. What does Hua Cheng look like? Good question. Xie Lian sometimes knew more than he lets on. This young master is sus. Handsome but sus. The youth took his time to answer. He got up to sit closer to Xie Lian. Surprised by his sudden movement, Xie Lian turned towards the handsome youth. There isn't much space between them, and their faces are closer. The youth looked him in the eye and asked Xie Lian what he imagined the Ghost King would look like. Xie Lian was at a loss for words for a minute while the youth stared, urging him on to answer. Don't look at me like that. I'm blushing. Well, actually, he's looking at Xie Lian, so back to the story. Embarrassed at being stared at, Xie Lian looked down at the sack on his lap. He told the youth that he thinks the Ghost King has a way of changing his looks. It would not be surprising for a ghost of his caliber to be able to change into different forms. In an attempt to gain the upper hand in this conversation, Xie Lian told the youth that the Ghost King's true form must be that of a youthful man, like the young master sitting beside him. The youth pushed back, citing that there is no way for one to be sure. He leaned back on the stack of hay and revealed to Xie Lian that Hua Cheng is blind in one eye. While pointing to his own right eye, he reveals that Hua Cheng gouged it out himself. That is just downright gory. Who does that? Gouging one's eye is torture, more so if you do it yourself. Like how and why? Xie Lian did not expect such revelations. He asked the youth why Hua Cheng would dig out his own eye. In a deadpan tone, the mysterious youth reasoned out that Hua Cheng's action was due to insanity. That makes so much sense. As the sky turns to a darker blue, the cart and its occupants continued their conversation. Keeping a casual tone, Xie Lian asked if Hua Cheng has any weaknesses. The youth quickly answered that it would be his ashes. In the youth's matter-of-fact voice, Xie Lian countered that no one would be able to get hold of the Ghost King's ashes, rendering the information useless. A lone maple leaf fell from the trees above, and the youth caught it with his elegant fingers. The youth lets on that the ghost realm has a strange custom. This custom allows the ghost to pick their fated pair and hand over their ashes to them for safekeeping. That's actually romantic. After inspecting the leaf, he handed it over to Xie Lian. Did you know that a maple leaf is a symbol of love in China and Japan? Xie Lian took a moment to digest this new information while he twirls the maple leaf between his fingers. The youth studied his face as Xie Lian inspects the leaf. Xie Lian expressed that he was not aware of such a custom. He did not expect that a place known for its debauchery would have such a sentimental tradition. He imagines how heartbreaking it would be if the one the ghost trusts the most will betray them and smother their ashes. He relayed this to the youth, and with conviction, the youth tells Xie Lian that one should not fear it happening. If he were in the position of the ghost, he will not care if his chosen one betrays him or destroy his ashes for their amusement. Xie Lian looked at the youth with slight pity and surprise. He smiled at the youth's naivete and was quiet for a while. As the gloom of night started to spread in the sky, Xie Lian realized that they'd been talking for so long, yet he still does not know the youth's name. He asked the youth, to which the young master replied that he was the third child of a noble house. Everyone calls him Sen Lang. In Mandarin, Sen Lang literally means third son. Xie Lian introduced himself and asked the youth if he was also headed to Pukai village. The youth responded that he has no destination in mind. He shares his plight with Xie Lian, telling him that he was forced to leave his home after an argument with his family. He was so hungry and was about to faint when he finally found an empty cart to lie down. for someone who almost fainted from hunger. He spent the entire afternoon talking instead of asking for food or water. He does not look hungry at all. Xie Lian rummaged through his sack and handed over a meat bun to Sen Lang. It is the only food he has. Sen Lang was hesitant to accept it as he knows that Xie Lian would have none left if he eats it. Xie Lian split the meat bun in half so that they can share it together. He handed the other half to Sen Lang. They quietly enjoyed their meager meal as the ox-drawn cart traveled through the forest. The sun finally set, and darkness engulfed the mountains. The hooves of the ox made clopping noise on the paved road without rest. The ox suddenly halted in its tracks and let out a strangled moo. Xie Lian stood to get a better view of what startled the ox. He walked over to the front of the cart to ask the driver what caused the delay. Baffled by the unusual turn of events, the cart driver has no idea why the ox named Old Yellow won't move. The old man urged his hardworking companion to move forward, but he won't budge. Xie Lian noticed that the ox is frozen in fear. He asked the cart driver what today's date is, but it was Sen Lang who replied that it was the day of the ghost festival. Alarmed, Xie Lian realized the cause. He set his eyes forward and noticed green ghostly light from a distance. Every year, in the middle of July, the gates of the ghost realm open to the mortal world. I think every country has its own Halloween or its own version of it. Which month does your country celebrate? The Day of Souls or the Day of the Dead? Xie Lian told his companions not to recklessly move around. There is a chance that they won't find their way back if they choose the wrong path. Xie Lian stood beside the cart, ready to protect his companions. Behind him stood a nonchalant Sen Lang. A will-o'-the-wisp appears in front of them, and the old man shivered in fear. The ghosts are coming closer. Ghostly green lights flew above. Some are bright, while some are muted. A horde of apparitions dressed in white walks along the rough beaten path. It may seem like a normal procession, but none of them have heads. Or, to be more accurate, they each carried their heads in their arms. As they come closer, Xie Lian ordered Yi to surround the cart to protect its occupants. Xie Lian told his companions to not make any noise when the horde of ghosts come nearer. The ghosts are unable to see them at the moment, but he won't be able to tell should they come closer. Sen Lang took a quick look at the stretch of silk that was Yi and addressed Xie Lian. He comments that Gege must be an extraordinary person. Gege is similar to the Korean word appa. It literally means big brother but can also be used as an endearment. Embarrassed and afraid that his status as a god would be revealed, Xie Lian countered that he is not exceptional at all. The old man, seeing a horde of ghosts and witnessing a silk float around his cart, cannot promise that he will be able to hold his screams. Left with no choice, Xie Lian sighed as he apologized to the old cart driver for what he is about to do. He knocked him out with one strike. As the man slept through the ghostly ordeal, Xie Lian took the reins and invited Sen Lang to step on the cart. He encouraged him to not be nervous so that they can move forward. The cart's wheels rattle as it plowed through the sea of ghosts. The loud chatters of the ghosts drown out the noise of the slowly moving cart. One ghost's voice can be heard above the clamoring, suspecting that another ghost's body is carrying his head. The other ghost denied the accusation with a cuss. The other insists as he feels uncomfortable that another person is carrying his head. He reaches out to the other ghost wanting to have a better look. The other ghost took a step back while raising his head way above his shoulder. He suspects that the other ghost wants his body because the other's head was severed in such an ugly, gruesome way. Their scuffling led them to bump into the edge of Xie Lian's protective barrier. Xie Lian worriedly looked on while Sen Lang watched in boredom. This guy is as cool as a cucumber. Bewildered at not being able to pass through, the ghosts suspect that there must be something there. Their suspicion was exacerbated when the edge of the cart hit one ghost in the face. One of them suspected that there must be a ghost playing tricks on them, to which the other quipped that it can't be a ghost as they are ghosts themselves. Annoyed at their squabbling, the other ghosts had enough and rudely told them to walk ahead. The ghosts went their merry way as one ghost stated that the encounter scared him, which was ironic cause he was the ghost. Amused with what transpired, Sen Lang let out a chuckle as he sat in a relaxed manner beside Xie Lian. Xie Lian took note in his head that he should now observe the date whenever he has to go out. He was surprised when Sen Lang scooted closer and asked if he was all right. Sen Lang feigned a fearful look and told Xie Lian that he was scared. Yeah, right. As if, ever the kind, compassionate person that he is, Xie Lian assured the youth to not be afraid as nothing can harm him while Xie Lian is there. Sen Lang called for his attention and pointed to something up ahead. The green lights housing a spirit scattered in the air, some clinging to the branches of a tree. Ahead of them are two separate paths. Xie Lian halted the cart while he contemplates on which direction to go. He explains that on the night of the ghost festival, one should not carelessly choose a path as it can mean that they won't be able to get back. Sen Lang asked him what they should do. Xie Lian gave out an exclamation of glee as he gets up to rummage through his belongings. He decided to just leave it up to fate. With conviction, he takes out a cylindrical container of fortune-telling sticks. Ta-da! He shook the container 3 times and let out a prayer. The first stick should point to the left, and the second to the right. The one with the better fortune will be that path that they should take. He recited the mantra of heaven officials, hoping for no evil to follow. The two sticks finally released themselves from their confinement with a clatter. Xie Lian inspected the sticks, and a sense of dread came over him as he read the fortunes. Both paths are bad. That's not helpful at all. He reprimands the cylindrical container for giving him bad fortunes when this is the first time he gets to use it. He's so desperate now. He's talking to inanimate objects. I would, too, if I were in that situation. He decided to attempt a second time, and with a deep breath, he shook the jar vigorously. Xie Lian patiently waited beside him. With yet another clatter, 2 sticks came out of the jar. Bad. They are all bad. Xie Lian felt downtrodden as he looks at the sticks of bad fortune. What an unlucky guy. Taking pity on the unlucky Taoist, Xie Lian extended his hand to take the wooden jar from Xie Lian. He volunteered to give it a try himself. As a will-o'-the-wisp passed around their heavily protected cart, Xie Lian remarked how lucky Xie Lian must be. The 2 sticks predicted good fortune in both directions. Xie Lian shrugged it off, claiming that he's always been lucky. I envy this guy. As both paths lead to good fortune for Xie Lian, Xie Lian decided to let him decide on which path to take. Xie Lian agrees and chooses a path. Xie Lian did not expect the young master to situate himself behind him. He held onto the reins to which Xie Lian was still grasping. Xie Lian pulled at the reins for the ox to move forward. Crisis averted. The will-o'-the-wisps littered the sky with their green glow, giving the otherwise starless night an eerie quality. In the darkness, an ox-drawn cart made its way to Pukai village. Xie Lian was relieved that they went through the correct path. His thoughts shift to the young master beside him. Xie Lian lounged against the pile of hay with one arm bent upwards to support his neck. Xie Lian notes that while it is not strange to be well informed about gods and ghosts, it is unusual for someone as young as him to keep a calm countenance when faced with hordes of ghosts. He calls out to him, and the young man opens his eyes to pin Xie Lian with a smoldering gaze. Xie Lian offered to read the young man's fortune by studying the lines on his palms. Very eagerly, the young man scooted towards Xie Lian, readily holding out his hand. Xie Lian studied the hand outstretched towards him. While most common ghosts are able to take human form, they are unable to copy little details like palm lines and strands of hair. One look at Xie Lian's palm tells him that there is nothing strange at all. Xie Lian's palm lines look real, and it does not seem like it was tampered with. Xie Lian wonders if he is being unnecessarily suspicious. Yeah, maybe we're all just overthinking. Not. Eagerly awaiting what fortune Xie Lian saw through his palm lines, Xie Lian urged Xie Lian to tell him what his future looks like. Xie Lian lets out a deliberate cough as he readies himself for the lies he has to weave. He tells Xie Lian that he was able to determine that Xie Lian is a persistent and headstrong person. He gave him the generic fortune of someone with their share of ups and downs, yet remaining true to one's heart to transform their misfortunes into good ones. He ended his performance by telling Xie Lian that he will have a bright and fulfilling future. Not satisfied with Xie Lian's reading, Xie Lian asked for more. Not too eager to tell more lies, Xie Lian braced himself and asked Xie Lian if there is anything in particular that he would like to know. Feigning shy, Xie Lian asked to know about his future spouse. Xie Lian need not fabricate this one. He told Xie Lian that he is not very good at reading palms. Xie Lian assures Xie Lian that he does not need to worry about his marriage prospect. Xie Lian coyly asked why that would be the case. Xie Lian scratched his face and told Xie Lian that surely there are many girls that are infatuated with him. Not wanting to let it go, Xie Lian kept on asking Xie Lian why he thinks so. Flustered, Xie Lian fumbled for words until finally catching on that Xie Lian has been trying to fish compliments from him. Xie Lian simply laughed it off while still looking at Xie Lian. Why do you have to look at him like that? I bet he really wants to hear Xie Lian comment on how handsome he is. Fireflies dance through the air, illuminating their way. A dog barks in the distance as they silently trudge through the sleeping village. Finally, they arrived. Xie Lian halted the cart and poked the old man awake. Disgruntled at being woken and sporting a headache, the old man opened his bleary eyes. Xie Lian assured him that the danger had passed and urged the old man to hurry home. Surprised that he slept through the whole ordeal and that they are indeed in the village, the old man jerked awake. Xie Lian asked the old man to not tell anyone of what transpired that night. The old man thanked him profusely for saving his life and promised not to tell anyone about what he witnessed. Xie Lian gathered his things as he alighted the cart and waved his hands in goodbye. Xie Lian brutally stood behind him. The incessant barking of the dog in the distance turned into whines as Xie Lian stares him down. How did Xie Lian do that? He's either a dog whisperer or an almighty being. Xie Lian walked forward, which caught Xie Lian's attention. He called out to him and asked Xie Lian where he plans to go. With eyes downcast, Xie Lian told him that he plans to sleep on the street or in a nearby cave. He thanked his Gege for the company, wished him well, and hoped that they will meet again. Taking pity on the poor youth, Xie Lian offered to let him stay with him at the shrine. Sen Lang hesitates at first, seemingly not wanting to take advantage of Xie Lian's generosity. Xie Lian convinced him that many people used to stay in that dilapidated hut and that it was not really his to begin with. Sen Lang's sudden movement surprised Xie Lian. In a matter of seconds, the youth is leaning toward him. So close, he was relieved of one of the sacks he's been carrying. Surprised and stunned, Xie Lian stood frozen as Sen Lang looked into his eyes and conveyed his acceptance of Xie Lian's offer. He wanted to be invited. I can tell. Still frozen to where he stood, Xie Lian watched Sen Lang carry his bag. Sen Lang walked ahead of him, leading the way to their new home. The clouds finally moved to make the stars visible on this cold, dark night. A dilapidated hut stood underneath the starry sky. Crickets chirped in the distance. There is a light shining through the hut. A lone candle illuminates the dark and pitiful state of the hut. Two individuals sat on a mat as they prepare for bed. Xie Lian apologized for the state of his shrine as he removes his outer robes. When no response came, he looks to his companion and caught him looking at his bare ankles. Around his ankles is a cursed mark. Its dark ink stood out on his fair skin. Unabashedly, Sen Lang stared. Xie Lian quickly covered the mark with his hand. He looked down in shame while Sen Lang continued to stare at him. It's rude to stare, Sen Lang. To break the awkward silence, Sen Lang commented that it was a nice place, albeit missing a few pieces to call it a shrine. Xie Lian stretched out his outer robe to use it as a makeshift blanket. After fiddling with his robe, Xie Lian told Sen Lang that aside from worshippers, he does not feel like he's missing anything. Xie Lian seems to be past the point of needing any material things, or he's been so alone for so long that he's become so independent and simply made do with what he has. Sen Lang pointed out that the shrine has no prayer statue nor any effigy of the god it worships. This struck Xie Lian dumb, appalled at himself for forgetting the most important part of the shrine. Saving face, he forced out a cough and told Sen Lang that he had bought the materials he needed to draw an image of the god for his shrine. He will start on it tomorrow and hang it up. Xie Lian could already hear the mocking voices of the other gods. If heaven hears about a god who drew his own portrait, the gods will laugh at him for a decade. Wanting to shake the thought, Xie Lian shook his makeshift blanket to get rid of any dust clinging to it. Sen Lang offered to draw the god's image for him. Xie Lian thanked him for his offer, but ultimately declines as he expects that no one else can draw the Crown Prince of Xian. Sen Lang insisted that he can. At his self-assured face, Xie Lian asked Sen Lang if he really knew of the Crown Prince. With no hesitation, Sen Lang confirmed that he does. The lone flame danced on the candle, withstanding the slight wind that blows into the little hut. Being the gracious host, Xie Lian offered his robe to Sen Lang to stave away the cold. He asked Sen Lang what he thinks of the Crown Prince. Sen Lang accepted the robe and remarked that the heavenly emperor Junwu must have hated the Crown Prince. Xie Lian asked why he thought that way. Sen Lang explained that there could be no other reason for Junwu to banish the Crown Prince twice. At his naivete, Xie Lian shook his head as he discarded his second outer layer. Xie Lian told Sen Lang that he does not think that the prince's banishment is due to the emperor not liking him. He explains to Sen Lang that there is more to liking or not liking someone. Also, as the Crown Prince committed a grave mistake, he was justly punished. By doing so, the emperor adhered to the rules. Reluctantly, Sen Lang agreed. As time got deeper into the night, Xie Lian urged Sen Lang to rest. He extends his hand toward the candle and extinguished the flame with his 2 fingers. Moonlight streamed through the cracks of the dilapidated hut. The starry sky can be seen through the holes in the roof. Unable to sleep, Sen Lang lay awake. He moved to his side, facing Xie Lian, just watching him sleep. Xie Lian slept peacefully on his side, huddled in his own robe to keep himself warm. Sen Lang removes the robe he received from Xie Lian and places it on the sleeping prince. Outside, will-o'-the-wisps surround the dilapidated shrine, forming a protective barrier, protecting it from harm. A butterfly lands on a flower, taking joy in its sweet nectar. It is morning. The sun's soft light shines through the trees surrounding Pu Kai Shrine. Xie Lian wakes up. The light seeping through the holes in the roof assaults his sleepy eyes. He sat on his straw bed and noticed that he is alone. He realized how peacefully he slept the night before. As it was the ghost festival, it was unusual for a god in the mortal realm to sleep soundly on that night. Xie Lian parted the curtains where he wrote his spells and talisman. Xie Lian has been using the curtain as a door to protect against evil spirits. It is customary to write spells or put talismans on a door for protection. It separates the makeshift bedroom from the shrine. He was fixing his hair when something made him stop in his tracks. He stared at it befuddled, disbelieving what he is seeing. On the wall above the altar hangs a painting. It was of an elegantly dressed man, his sleeves billowing in the invisible wind. One hand held a single flower close to his beautiful face while his other arm was bent to his back, holding a sword. It was the prince who pleased the gods. The painting was splendid. Each line is drawn with care, and the colors are vibrant. Xie Lian reached out to the painting, to what he used to be, but held back, and he restrained his hand. He can never go back to being that prince. The sound of wood being chopped can be heard outside. Xie Lian went through the curtains and stepped outside. He found Xie Lian chopping wood, with his red outer coat tied to his waist, and his inner shirt rolled up. Xie Lian notes how attractive he is. He looked disheveled as he wiped the sweat off his brows. Even when sweating, he still looks good. It's so unfair. Xie Lian asked Xie Lian if he had a good sleep. The youth responded that he slept well. He also asked Xie Lian if he was the one who painted the image of the crown prince. Xie Lian hummed a reply as he placed a block of wood on the stump. Xie Lian complimented the painting. It was drawn well. Xie Lian continued to chop wood. Although he gave no acknowledgement to Xie Lian's praise, an upward tilt to his lips. Contemplating how best to handle the situation, Xie Lian stayed quiet for a few beats. At this point, he's being more suspicious of Xie Lian. He reached into his sleeves and pulled out a comb. Can you really store stuff in there? Like, how can they stay in place when you move around? With the enthusiasm of a seasoned hairdresser, Xie Lian offered to fix Xie Lian's hair. Being knowledgeable is not unusual, but for someone so young to accurately draw a banished crown prince from 800 years ago is an enigma. Xie Lian needed to test if his newfound friend is truly human. Xie Lian sat on a rock so that his head would be lower than Xie Lian. With great care, Xie Lian proceeded to comb his hair. You see, ghosts can imitate people, but only to a certain extent. Hair is comprised of thousands of strands, and a common ghost may not be able to mimic it, so their hair may look like a big lump of dark cloth or wiry thick strings. As Xie Lian combs through Xie Lian's hair, he noted how soft and distinct the strands are. He set aside his suspicions to enjoy the feel of fine strands as his comb went through it. It feels like grooming a moody fluffy fox. Xie Lian's hair is smooth and silky. I want to do that, too. Finally catching on that Xie Lian is taking his time with his hair, Xie Lian teasingly asked him if he has other intentions. Xie Lian awarded him a nervous grin. He thought that while he was at it, he might as well tidy him up and braid his hair. This marks Xie Lian's newfound career as a hairdresser. Master Xie Lian's beauty salon opens for business. With a touch of his expert hands, he wove his first his first client's hair into an intricate, elegant braid. Or at least he tried to. The finished product is a lopsided mess. The client is better off not having gone to Master Xie Lian's beauty salon at all. As quickly as it started, Xie Lian's newfound career as a hairdresser abruptly ended. With its master lacking talent, Xie Lian's beauty salon is forced to close for business. Back to collecting trash, it is. There is another addition to Xie Lian's shrine. A double door. Surprised at the craftsmanship put into creating the door, Xie Lian asked Xie Lian if he chopped wood to make it. The question was rhetorical, for who else would have made it? The woodwork is superb. Where do I find a man like that? An artist, a craftsman, works around the house and is easy on the eyes. Like a child given a new toy, Xie Lian kept trying out the door. He would swing the double doors and its hinges, closing and opening and closing. That's actually really cute. I'm at the point in my life when I get excited by new pillows and pieces of furniture, so I can relate to Xie Lian's excitement. As Xie Lian plays with his new toy, door, Xie Lian explains that Xie Lian's talisman will be far more effective if it is drawn on a solid object like a door instead of flimsy curtains. It also keeps the cold out and protects your home from looters and bad people. With a smile that can melt anyone's heart, Xie Lian thanked Xie Lian for his thoughtfulness. They entered the shrine, and Xie Lian pours tea for Xie Lian. He asked him who taught him how to draw. For such wonderful work, he must have had a teacher. Xie Lian answered that he learned it on his own, and he started drawing as a hobby. Xie Lian probed further, asking Xie Lian how he was able to closely depict the Crown Prince of Xian in his painting. Xie Lian countered that he knows many things, so it is not unusual for him to know how to draw the illustrious prince. As he handed him his cup of tea, Xie Lian was about to comment on Xie Lian's brazen answer when a voice is heard from outside desperately calling out for help. A man stumbles forward as he runs to the shrine, nonsensically screaming that he escaped. Escaped from where? He begs Xie Lian to save him. Xie Lian tried to calm him down and asked what made him so frantic. Out of breath, the man grabs onto Xie Lian and tells him 3 distinct words: Half Moon Pass. 3 incense sticks burn at the altar. Xie Lian asks the man if, by Half Moon Pass, he was referring to the oasis at the Gobi Desert in the northwest. The name Half Moon Pass was derived from the magnificent view of the half moon at night whenever travelers would pass by. The man's gaunt face stares at him in bewilderment. They must be talking about 2 different places. The Half Moon Pass that he knew is no oasis, nor is it beautiful. Although there is some truth in Xie Lian's words. Half Moon Pass used to be an oasis with a beautiful view, but the name is no longer accurate. Nowadays, it is more fitting to call the place Half Death Pass. Surprise, Xie Lian asks why. The man the book refers to him as a cultivator explains that whenever a group passes the once beautiful oasis, they will lose half of their group. Thus, travelers have been referring to it as Half-Death Pass. He explains that he escorted a group of traveling merchants through Half Moon Pass when he was not able to finish his story as he appears to be stricken with grief. Xie Lian looks at the man, noting that there is something unusual with this man. Xie Lian blows on the tea to cool it down, and with one bleary eye, he asks the man if he ran straight to Xie Lian's shrine all the way from Half Moon Pass. The cultivator assented with a sigh of relief and told them that he narrowly escaped death by doing so. Xie Lian continued to sip his tea. I feel like he's giving Xie Lian some hints. A thought struck Xie Lian. He walked towards the kitchen and fetched a bowl of water for his guest. He offered the bowl of water to the man. He must be thirsty after running for his life in the desert. Instead of delight or gratefulness, the man's face contorted with suspicion and worry at the sight of water. Xie Lian smiled as if nothing is amiss as he handed over the bowl. The cultivator sweated bullets as he contemplates if he should take it. With a clack of ceramic hitting the wooded altar, Xie Lian placed his cup on the table and urged the man to not hold back his thirst. The visitor took the bowl with clean drinking water. With the look on his face, it would seem as if he was being asked to drink sewer water. Reluctantly, he drank all the water from the bowl. Xie Lian observes the man. Anyone who escaped from the desert and ran straight to Xie Lian's home would have been dying from thirst. But this man would not even glance at the cups of water on the altar. As the man drinks, a sloshing sound can be heard. The sound is similar to what an empty vessel would make when you fill it with water for the first time. The sound is hollow, reverberating through the insides of this empty vessel. Xie Lian stops the man from drinking, telling him that finishing the bowl of water is pointless. This stranger is not human, so the bowl of water is of no use for him. He is but an empty vessel. The vessel fisted his hand and quickly grabbed his sword, aiming it at Xie Lian. With Xie Lian's left hand holding to the man's wrist and the other hand free, he countered the man's attack by flicking the sword with his free hand. The sword was dislodged from the man's hand with a loud clang. Now that's some master Xie Lian stuff. Times like this reminds us that Xie Lian is a martial god. Xie Lian continued to lean on the table as he watched the sword fly through the air and end itself deep into a pile of stones. Now that's some King Arthur stuff. While the vessel was stunned at being disarmed, Xie Lian took the opportunity to maneuver his next attack. He squeezed the vessel's arm. As he squeezed tightly, the man's arm shrunk like a balloon that ran out of air. He tore his arm off Xie Lian's grip and made a mad dash to the gate. Xie Lian was about to call for Ro Yi to prevent the vessel from escaping, but Xie Lian has other plans. Xie Lian can be seen reaching over for a stick from the fortune shaker on the table. With a swift swoosh, an arrow-like projectile shoot past by Xie Lian. The projectile got the vessel on the back, and he collapses on the ground, dead. A lone stick, with words bad written on it, jutted out from the vessel's back. Xie Lian pulled out the bamboo stick, and instead of blood, water gushed out of the supposed wound. As Xie Lian pressed down, air seeped out of the puncture wound. Xie Lian proceeded to calmly poke at the empty vessel, finding it interesting. As he studies the vessel, Xie Lian commented that the vessel was well made and that the cultivation powers of the one controlling it must have been strong. Normally, dummies like this are not able to respond eloquently to questions. The one controlling it can only give a dummy a simple command. However, this one acted lifelike and was able to carry a conversation, so the one controlling it must have godlike level of cultivation. Xie Lian realizes that whoever is controlling the vessel made a point of coming to Xie Lian in an attempt to lure him to Half Moon Pass, which in itself is unusual. He decided to communicate with the other gods in the communication array. As Xie Lian enters the array, he was bombarded by the jubilant atmosphere. It was bustling with excitement. Merits are being thrown in the array while the other gods are giggling as they make a grab for them. A lucky god announced that he received 100 merits while another announced that he grabbed 1,000. An unfortunate one grabbed a single merit. Not fully aware of what was going on, Xie Lian asked the other gods if they have any information on Half Moon Pass. The jovial atmosphere appeared to have been zapped out as all the gods went silent. They treat Xie Lian like the Grinch or the party pooper. The silence was broken by one god announcing that the Lord Wind Master threw 100,000 merits. The gods went back to their jovial selves, completely ignoring Xie Lian. That's rude. Dejected, Xie Lian disconnected from the communication array. In the background, Xie Lian can be seen hoisting the corpse/vessel with one arm. He's very cool about having to clean up a corpse that shrunk on its own with a sigh. Xie Lian laments that while it is all right for the gods to ignore the poems and books he shared, they should at least help him out when he asks about official concerns. Xie Lian was surprised to hear Ling Wen's voice. She contacted him in his private communication array to ask him why he was suddenly asking about Half Moon Pass. Xie Lian explained what happened, as it was obvious that the vessel was trying to lure him to Half Moon Pass. He thought that it is better to gather more information and take necessary caution before he take action. Ling Wen cautioned him not to go to Half Moon Pass. Xie Lian thought that the situation must be dire if no one has taken matters into their own hands for the past 100 years. He inquires if it is true that half of the people who travel there disappeared. Sounding uncomfortable with discussing the place, Ling Wen told Xie Lian that they should cease discussing the topic and not seek information from other heavenly officials or let anyone know of his plans. What's with all the secrecy? Something tells me that there is a conspiracy going on, and it involves the heavenly realm. Xie Lian disconnects from his private communication with Ling Wen and stares at his yard, silently contemplating. Done with throwing away the trash, Sen Lang comes through the gate, wrapping his arm with bandages. Xie Lian turns to him as he calls out his name. Sen Lang halted in his tracks as Xie Lian tells him that he will be leaving for some time and will have to leave Sen Lang behind. Almost done wrapping his arm with bandages, Sen Lang asks Xie Lian if he could tag along. Xie Lian noticed that the weather is changing and that the wind has been blowing more eagerly. It might rain soon. He invited Sen Lang to go inside. On the way to the hut, Xie Lian tells Sen Lang that the journey will be arduous. The sandstorm in Gobi Desert is merciless, and there is no reason for Sen Lang to suffer through it. Sen Lang asked Xie Lian if he plans to visit Half Moon Pass to see what was happening there. Always the well of information for Xie Lian. It appears that Sen Lang knew a lot about Half Moon Pass. Is there anything this guy does not know? He explains to Xie Lian that 200 years ago, there used to be a country in Half Moon Pass called Banyu, the Half Moon Country. This country is known to have a demonic cultivator who was given the title of Grand Tutor. It appears that the Grand Tutor is an orphan who studied demonic cultivation since their youth. They picked up all kinds of tricks as they wandered around. Xie Lian shuts the door to protect them from the wind, silently praying for heaven to not unload its tears on his measly hut. The roof still has holes, and he does not want to waste all his hard work. Sen Lang continues, talking about how the people of Half Moon Pass were afraid of this cultivator, so they made that person the Grand Tutor. Xie Lian was about to ask more about the Grand Tutor when 2 knocks were heard at the door. He and Sen Lang took a moment to listen, then they shared a look. After the visit from the vessel earlier, they are worried in receiving another guest. Xie Lian decided to open the door as Sen Lang faced the altar. Xie Lian lifted the wooden bar serving as a lock as he slowly opens the door. Outside, 2 deputy gods stood. It was Fu Yao and Nan Feng. The trees rustle behind them as the wind blows. Fu Yao's hair billows in the wind, obstructing Nan Feng's face. It was a pleasant surprise for Xie Lian. Annoyed at Fu Yao's hair, Nan Feng swats the hair away as Fu Yao rolls his eyes. Always the straightforward one. Fu Yao asks if Xie Lian plans to go to Half Moon. His question hangs in the air unfinished. Their expression turns ashen as they had a clear view of Xie Lian's new companion. Nan Feng grabbed Xie Lian as he shielded him from the youth facing the altar. Amassing spiritual power on one hand, a wild spark of electric blue surged from his hand, directing it at Sen Lang. Fu Yao did the same as light emerged from his hand, ready to strike. Do they know him? Are we finally going to find out who or what he really is? Sparks fly as the two prepare for combat. Their spiritual powers crackle behind Sen Lang. Unbothered by the murderous aura of the 2 deputy gods, Sen Lang lighted 3 incense and placed them on the altar. Not wanting any casualties, Xie Lian urged the deputy gods to stop and not be rash. He introduces Sen Lang as his new friend and begs them to treat him respectfully for his sake. With his bandaged hands, Sen Lang clapped sarcastically, commenting on the amazing feat displayed by the 2 officials. He calls Xie Lian Gege and asks him who the newcomers are. Xie Lian told Sen Lang to not be nervous. He does not look nervous at all, Xie Lian. Actually, he's the calmest in this situation. Alarmed that Xie Lian is standing too close to this person, Nan Feng shouted at Xie Lian to not talk to the suspicious individual beside him. Xie Lian carefully asked if they know Sen Lang. Fu Yao answered that they don't. So, why are they poised to attack him? Surprised at their reaction, Xie Lian asked why the 2 are on edge if they have never met Sen Lang before. His question was ignored as Nan Feng asked him questions in rapid succession. Where did they meet? What's his name? His place of residence? Why are they together? He sounded like a dad questioning his daughter about her boyfriend. Shielding Sen Lang from the 2 deputy gods, he calmly explained that he met the youth on the road and opted to take him home as he has no place to go. He admits not knowing the answer to the other questions. He urged them to not do anything impulsive and offered them tea, hoping to calm them down. His answer had the opposite effect for Nan Feng, as his careless disregard for safety would probably cause him to have a heart attack. Fed up with their crazy antics, Xie Lian pointed out that he has nothing that Sen Lang could take. Therefore, there is no nefarious motive of any kind. The 2 were somehow mollified by this answer but did not withdraw their powers. Sen Lang continued to address Xie Lian as Gege and asks him if these 2 are his servants. Xie Lian replied that it is more accurate to call them assistants. Mischievously, Sen Lang reached out to something from behind the door and threw it at Fu Yao. It was a broom. Fu Yao's face morphed into an expression of fury, Nan Feng of disbelief, and Xie Lian of bewilderment. Deeply insulted, Fu Yao attacked Sen Lang with his spiritual powers. The sphere of light blasted through 2 walls behind Sen Lang. The youth did not budge, looking unperturbed at the heavenly official who tried to end him. As debris fell on Xie Lian's head, he calmly addressed the 2 heavenly officials, and with a smile, he towered over the 2 to convey his ire. He called upon Ro Yi to tie up the 2 together. He bids Sen Lang a short farewell as he drags the 2 outside.